Hi, my name is Justin, and this is Devin, sales managers for our sales team for our sales management class Capstone project.
For our project this semester, the team was led by two sales managers, Justin and myself. Within our team, there were four total sales students. So we had Lillian, Alexa, Maddie, and myself. And for each sales students, we were responsible for hitting an individual quota of $350, which set our overall team performance target at 1,400 bucks. In addition to serving as a sales manager, I was also actively selling and working towards my own quota. So that meant I was managing two responsibilities simultaneously, holding myself accountable to the same performance expectations as the team, while also coaching and supporting other sales students. So as a sales manager, we both helped run weekly check-ins, reviewed prospecting activity, cold calls, emails, and DM outreaches. We checked in for donation progresses and, just try to help with overall script development. We use these check-ins to help identify where individuals were struggling, whether with motivation or confidence on the phones, and dealing with objections, and just how we could help adjust accordingly, and coaching as well. Being both a manager and a salesperson gave me additional perspective on, how the challenges came for, having hands-on experience and how I could help manage the team. And it honestly helped me coach more effectively and kind of lead the team by example while still maintaining accountability and structure.
So this slide right here shows both the individual and the team level quota performance. Each sales student, including Devin, carried a $350 quota. Lillian reached 100% of her quota, while Maddie exceeded it at $360, showing strong execution and confidence in outreach. Alexa and Devin both made meaningful progress toward the quota, but they did not fully reach it. Alexa finished at $146, while Devin raised $230, reaching roughly 66% of his quota. Because he was able to balance his own selling responsibilities while serving as a sales manager, he was split between personal outreach but also coaching others, which impacted his individual result. As a team, the total performance target was $1,400, and they raised $1,086, which represents approximately 78% of the quota attainment. The strongest performance drivers across the team were outreach to family, friends, and the consistent follow ups and increased confidence during cold calls. This performance breakdown directly informed how we coached the team. Students who were below quota needed additional support and confidence and consistency, while those who hit or exceeded the quota, they reinforced their behaviors, which were most effective.
So this slide is all about, teaching and coaching the seven-step sales process. So a major responsibility of our, as us as sales managers was teaching that process, especially from the Joe's Hairs text, and just helping, our fellow students apply it in the real world environment. So then rather than treating this process as, a theory, we try to break it down and use it as practical behaviors that students could, consistently practice and hopefully improve throughout the semester. So, for number one, for prospecting, we focus on helping students build and expand lead lists using, if they found more comfort in using family and friends, we help them progress that way. Using Facebook and referrals was something that was, always very positive. And then doing those weekly check-ins, it really showed the differences week by week in how they were able to generate leads across the whole team. So, um, in regards, that also helped us coach them. So, we didn't have to rely too heavily on just one single source or, not re-engaging on past leads. There was more of a slow progression throughout, the whole semester. So during the pre-approach and approach stages, we coached our students for, preparation and to have confidence on the phone or, in their emails to be more demanding or, um, having that fine sweet spot. So refining those opening lines, making sure that they understood the scout mission clearly, and helping them ask for time before jumping into the conversation. Several students adjusted their scripts over time, and after realizing their openings were either too long or too unclear, they could definitely find that nice sweet spot. So for the presentation step, we emphasized clarity and simplicity. So explaining where donations were going and why they mattered. Feedback from the cold calls showed that prospects often asked for, clarifying questions about the project, and that highlighted the importance of having that preparation and understanding the knowledge behind why we were reaching out to, some of these prospects. Objection handling, again, that's a really big point. It's something that's really crucial because if you can't handle objections, it's going to be one of the biggest growth areas. Um, and if they can't answer those questions with, solid answers, sometimes you're going to get these prospects and they're just going to be frustrated or, upset about why you're giving them a call or feel caught off guard. So, um, it's definitely an issue that we had to address throughout the whole semester. For our closing and follow-up, we coach students to, ask them directly for donations and to be consistent and send thank you messages and follow up with outreaches. So students who did follow up, they found more success and, sometimes the emails and even just sending over a quick thank you note was something that had a lot of positive feedback.
Okay. This next slide is the teaching of the sales process. It was a major part of our roles as sales managers. It was by applying sales management and leadership concepts from class to how we coached our team. One of the biggest concepts we applied was motivation. Not every student was starting from the same place in terms of confidence or the results they were getting. So, for example, the weekly check ins showed that some students became discouraged when prospects didn't respond or when progress toward the quota would slow down. So, in those moments, we focused on encouragement and reinforcing efforts over immediate results, helping them stay engaged with the process instead of shutting it down. Another important concept was performance management. We regularly reviewed each student's activity levels by prospecting, cold calls, and outreach, and provided feedback based on what we were seeing in the weekly reports. Students who had strong scripts but low activity were coached differently than students who were active but lacked confidence or clarity. This allowed our coaching to be specific rather than generic. We also emphasize time in the activity management. During check ins, we discuss how to balance school responsibilities with outreach, and we help students break their selling into manageable steps rather than letting it become overwhelming. This helped improve consistency and reduced avoidance, especially around cold calling. Overall, these coaching conversations allowed us to apply classroom concepts directly to real situations and adjust our leadership style to fit each individual, which improved both confidence and performance across the team.
So for our next slide here, developing confidence, delivery, and objection handling. These are all extremely crucial when it comes to the sales world and prospecting and reaching out to these candidates that we want to raise some money for. So cold call training and role play were essential parts of how we could help our team improve. So early on, um, having weekly check-ins showed that there was some confidence building. Um, and several students felt unsure about calling prospects. They didn't know how to handle the questions that they might come up with, or that they were unprepared for. So the way that we could help with this was we kind of focused on refining scripts and practicing delivery, making sure that those scripts were reviewed. They had a strong opening line, and they could work on the tone and the pacing and the clarity. So students didn't feel rushed when they went in their calls and sound uncertain or, confused. So over time, students shortened and, they improved their opening lines, and that helped it feel a lot more natural. And along with that, objection handling was, another major emphasis. So being able to obtain some feedback from them from real calls, that that they received from prospects frequently, where they asked where their donations were going and they wanted clarification on the project that we were trying to support. It, it kind of helped all around. We used role play practice, responding to those objections confidently instead of getting caught off guard. Preparing these responses ahead of time made, these students more noticeably more comfortable during live calls. And another really strong thing was, having growth in confidence. So students who initially avoided cold calls or, were scared of even getting on the phone with some of these prospects, they were able to become more willing to make that happen and to have conversations with improved quality throughout the semester. The most challenging part, I would have to say, from helping these students was to push past that fear of rejection, especially when you're having multiple car calls that go unanswered, and then finally someone picks up and it's like caught out of the blue. You never know when that phone call will finally uh, get answered, and you don't want to get caught out of the blue. So reinforcing that rejection is going to be normal, and in sales, it was definitely a very key part of our coaching approach.
This next slide. So throughout the scout sales expedition, the team faced several consistent challenges that required active sales management rather than passive oversight. So one of the most common challenges was motivation, especially once some students would hit their quota or when other students experienced multiple unanswered calls or slow progress. The weekly reports reflected frustration and a drop in urgency at different points in the project. To address this, we focused on maintaining structure throughout the weekly check ins and reframing the success around effort and activity and not just receiving donations. We emphasized consistency and helped students reset expectations when momentum slowed. Another challenge was prospecting and reachability. Several students struggled to get responses from prospects, which led to discouragement. We coach students to diversify their outreach methods by combining cold calls, email, DMs, and follow ups rather than just relying on one single channel. The confidence with objections was also a major issue, especially when the prospects asked where the money was going or seemed hesitant. We addressed this by reinforcing preparation, reviewing project details together, and using role play so students could practice responses in a low pressure environment before making live calls. And finally, time management became an obstacle as academic workloads increased. We helped students break outreach into smaller, manageable tasks and prioritize short, focused activity periods rather than avoiding selling altogether. These challenges really reinforce the importance of proactive coaching and adaptability as a sales manager. And addressing issues early and adjusting our approach allowed the team to stay engaged and it continued progressing towards their goal.
So how we use tools throughout the semester. In addition to coaching and of course trying to show leadership, we supported the use of being able to use Zoom Info and ChatGPT. So when we utilize Zoom Info, we use that as a tool to help them understand how in the real world professional sales teams identify contacts information and help to build a stronger targeted outreach list. Um, so while some students relied primarily on personal networks, explaining how Zoom Info helped reinforce the importance of making sure that their prospect list stays organized, what real world sales prospecting looks like beyond just personal contacts. Along with that, ChatGPT was used more effectively throughout the project to support script development and skill building. So being able to refine the cold calls and the email scripts, prepared responses to common objectives, and generate role play scenarios. This allowed students to help practice handling uncertainty and confusion in a much, unprecedented and safe environment where they didn't feel peer pressured before making those real calls. So definitely utilizing both of these tools made a really big impact, and was definitely time efficient and helped build their confidence throughout the semester.
And now, so we're gonna give our like self-reflection. So serving as sales managers during the Scouts sales expedition, It was one of the most valuable leadership experience we felt we've had. One of the biggest lessons that we both learned was that managing people is very difficult than managing numbers. Each sales student required a different coaching approach based on their confidence, motivation, and situation at the time. What we enjoyed the most about being sales managers was seeing the growth over time, watching team members become more confident, making cold calls, handling objections, and asking directly for donations showed us the real impact of coaching and encouragement. Helping others improve was more rewarding than focusing solely on our own selling performances. One challenge we did not fully appreciate before this experience was how important motivation in sales is. Um, when progress slowed or calls went unanswered, confidence dropped very quickly, and learning how to keep students engaged, positive, and focused on their effort rather than immediate results was an important leadership skill that we both began to develop. If we could change one thing about this experience, we would want more time dedicated specifically to role playing and coaching. Additional structured practice would have helped students build confidence earlier in the process as well. Our advice to future sales managers would be to set clear expectations early, stay consistent with check ins, and lead by example. Being present, listening to your team, and adjusting your leadership style to fit each individual that makes a significant difference in both the performance and the morale.